Jeremy, he's got us up on YouTube, and I will start. And we're good to go.
All right, so I want to welcome everyone to the Recreation Committee meeting for May 23rd, 2022. And if we would, I'll just
Jeremy,
start off.
got us up on YouTube.
Okay, heard echo, I'm sorry. So if you would, let's just take a moment of silence for just a moment, please. Amen. Thank you. All right. So happy to see everybody. Very happy to see Lori Yarborough, who gave up her jury duty responsibilities today to be here. She had to change out for another time. And I think Jason's going to join us. It was interesting. They had the same jury duty assignment at the same time, both Lori and Jason Kronsberg. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So, and hopefully, I think the mayor will be joining us as well in just a little bit. I'm happy to see that he's feeling well enough to be joining in on committee meetings. I know he was on committee meetings earlier, so great to have everybody here. And we do have some special guests who I'll introduce in just a minute. We need to approve the minutes from March 7th. And do I hear a motion to approve those minutes, please?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. And Jennifer, I'm not sure who did the minutes, but it was very thorough and accurate, and it was a lot of minutes. We had a long meeting last time, so thank you for all of your work. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
That was Wanda Stepp in our office. She did a great job.
Yeah, thank you, Wanda. That was very, very good notes, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Next up, we're going to have a presentation from Daniel Strickland and Lance Tyner, and I'm going to let them both tell you a little bit about themselves. They're both avid tennis players, and they use our tennis facilities a lot, and they wanted to make a presentation to us the last time, and we had some technical difficulties, and so I certainly invited them back, and look forward to hearing what they have to say. So I guess, Lance, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and you and Daniel work together on this, we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, so I've lived in Charleston about 10 years, and I'm a financial advisor. I have a tennis player, and just enjoy doing anything I can to promote the community and good health in our community that we have. And Daniel, did you want to introduce yourself before I say anything further?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Daniel Strickland. Please forgive me for my voice, but I captured a cold this weekend, and it has taken away my voice almost to the point that I can't speak any longer. But again, I'm Daniel Strickland. I've lived here for almost 8 years now. As Lance, I'm an avid tennis player. I also have a coaching background. I'm an educator in Berkeley County, but I live in Charleston County in the city limits, of course, only 2 minutes away from Maybank Tennis Center. I've coached for about 25 years. And as I said, been living here for 8 years and really enjoy playing tennis in this very large and growing tennis community.
So we appreciate your time today. And we just, again, it's been a great recently, Mayor Tecklenburg recognized the city of Charleston as, and the contribution tennis has made to our community by naming May as Tennis Month. And we wanted to share with you a specific need at Maybank Tennis Center. But before I get to that specific need, I wanted to just mention to you, why does it even matter? I mean, Maybank Tennis Center obviously is in one of the 12 districts that y'all represent. But I wanted to tell you why it's important for every one of the districts that you were in. Because Low Country Tennis Association is our local tennis association, which does incorporate all 12 districts. Right now, it is the 6th largest tennis association in the entire United States. We're up there with Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas. We're the only non-major metro market. We're larger than Charlotte or a lot of other very large cities in participation in tennis That's because every one of your districts have participation in this league. And every one of those members will play tennis league matches at Maybank. We have home and away matches with Collins Park, St. Andrews, Charleston Tennis Center, Daniel Island Club. Throughout all the districts have tennis facilities that sponsor teams, and they come to Maybank for their matches. One of the issues we're having is, recently we had a match that was scheduled for 7:30 that wasn't able to start till 9 p.m. People, if they're coming from Daniel Island or Dorchester and drive all the way to Maybank, and you're waiting an hour and a half just to get onto a court to start. And that's, 16 adults that are doing that on a weeknight. And there's a big shortage of courts, particularly at night and on weekends. Then now, ever since we've had the outset of COVID, we've seen a marked rise in our communities of increased obesity, increased anxiety, and increased depression. And tennis programs are a good tool, one of many tools that is utilized to get outdoors and improve each of those problems that all have a cost to our society. Just to let you know too, it impacts the youth as well. There's youth programs, there's high schools that use these tennis courts. There's programs that serve underprivileged youth. And then finally, it also affects tourism. Charleston is increasingly known as a tennis town. It's one of the top cities in the United States that draws tennis people. And they come to watch tennis, but they also come to play and participate. And currently we, on a daily basis, there are times when people are turned away from the courts that can't participate just because there aren't enough spots on the court. And I'll turn it over to Daniel and he'll do the full presentation here.
Thank you, Lance. I appreciate that. Y'all are well aware that Charleston is experiencing a lot of growing pains. We're one of the fastest growing cities in the Southeast as well as the nation. We have a large number of people that move here, as Lance just pointed out, for recreation. And tennis is one of the reasons that some people even move here. We have a long history of tennis in Charleston with our juniors, adults, and we also have our professional tennis with Credit One Open that was renamed this year. As many of you are aware, we have been named America's best tennis town in 2010. And that's when we competed with 81 cities. I remember that when I was in Columbia because I used to serve on the USTA board in Columbia. And we had presentations from Charleston, representatives that came and presented to the USTA. So I remember that very well. Just a few facts and figures. If you didn't know, this just came out in March, that over the past 2 years, tennis has grown by 27.9%. They have seen an increase in participation with over 4 million more players since 2019 have joined in this. So the question is, why are they moving toward tennis? Well, there's a lot of reasons here, and some of the facts are that it shows that, as Lance already pointed out, we are the 6th largest local tennis league in the United States. And a couple of figures here for our local tennis, we had over 500 new tennis players that were registered in 22 just this spring, in spring of just this year. We had 50 more tennis teams registered through the LCTA than spring season of last year. Maybank is experiencing all of this particular growth. So we're seeing that this is a large increase at all levels of play, and that includes juniors. The USTA has done a real good job of communicating through the COVID time that tennis is a great way to play a sport safely. Maybank has seen an increase in our memberships during this period of time. Over the past 3 years, we are over 400 members at this point. More members has caused a strain on our courts availability. Many of our junior programs, especially at Maybank, they are restricted to using 4 courts because of the number of adults that are coming on the courts at that particular time. Adult leagues teams are forced to play at other facilities. We have teams that sign up at Maybank, but then they're told that they have to play somewhere else because we don't have room for them. More players means current restroom facilities are at a strain because they can't meet the demand because they weren't built for that. Not just our facility at Maybank, but we see this at other places as well. Charleston Tennis Center and Bees Landing is also experiencing this. So COVID has really hit the tennis community in a positive way because we are seeing lots more growth within tennis. Well, just a little history on Maybank. And the 5 clay courts could be a remedy for what we're seeing with the numbers that are going on at Maybank. Maybank, of course, was taken over by the city in 2012. Renovations were completed in October of 2012. That is when they added 5 additional clay courts. But at that time, they did not add lighting to those courts. Lights on the clay courts would help alleviate some of the overcrowding that we are experiencing because all of the adult play, or most, the majority, I won't say all because we do have day leagues, but a lot of the play is going on at night. So by putting lights on these 5 clay courts would definitely help alleviate some of that growth. I know that this is going to be a large expenditure, but in getting a couple of quotes, you can see here what the cost of 5 courts would allow us to put lights on. The approximate cost is anywhere from $22,000 to around $28,000 per court. And that, of course, does not include wiring and labor. So just to give you an idea, we have gone out and gotten some bids here to see what that would possibly cost us. So what are we asking for? We are asking that the city of Charleston provide funding for installation of lights on the existing 5 clay courts at Maybank Tennis Center. We're asking not only that you provide that, but you also fund the One Charleston Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was created a couple of years ago, because we know that I had many of my players make sure that they filled that out because a lot of the questions pertain to tennis facilities in the area. We realize that this is going to be expenditure for the city, but we're not coming to you with our hands completely out and saying, hey, we're not bringing something to the table. We are. We have a possibility of receiving some grant funding from the USDA. They have 1 grant from Southern and 1 grant from National, and that's called the Facility Services Grant. We also have some individuals on our committee that have said they are willing to go out and get some company sponsorship or even donations to make this happen. So I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you letting us come into the meeting today, and we'll take any questions if you have any today.
Any questions for Daniel Strickland or Lance Tyner?
And when looking at the various options, we just feel like adding lights here, you're not having to buy land, you're not having to build courts, and that would be the most cost efficient way of alleviating overcrowding at the peak times, which is in the evenings.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mayor Tecklenburg, did you have a question?
Thank you all for your willingness to help improve our facilities. Thank you so much. Were there any other locations around the city that were in a similar situation where some lighting would help?
Most of the other facilities are already lighted,
Yeah.
so there's not unlighted courts that we could simply do that to create additional courts.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councilman
Mayor,
Shade?
this is Lori. Just to add to that, and Lance is correct, the only other place that the city has more than 2 tennis courts, and you always have to have at least 3 tennis courts, and in some cases you have to have 4 or 5 courts to play a league match. We do have Lenovar, which is the only 4-court complex we have in the city that's not lighted, but everything else we have has lights where we have more than 2 courts and could play those league matches. So we've kind of tapped out on all of those spots where we are. And I'd like to also thank Lance and Daniel. They came and met with us and brought some of their teammates, other folks that are members at Maybank. We tried to go through some things that would help in the short term. I hope those things have helped. We've started allowing Maybank members to play at Charleston Tennis Center. If their courts are booked at Maybank and there's open courts at Charleston Tennis Center, they can go over there. We're going to look at how we limit the number of teams and kind of grandfather all those teams in so that we don't overburden the teams that are playing out of there. But it's a finite amount of resources. We have X number of courts and those are available X number of hours. And once you program those out, you can't do anything else. But I do appreciate them rallying some folks, and instead of just being upset, coming forth and saying, hey, we've got some great ideas. So Lance and Daniel, thank you all for that.
Thank you. Councilman Shade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not a member of this committee, but I looked at the agenda and wanted to just add my support. I've been approached by several constituents regarding the lack of lighting at Maybank, and I've talked to Mr. Yarborough about also the Charleston Tennis Center and the need to upgrade the lighting system over there. And she and I have had very good conversations about that, and I even sent her a proposal. So my comments are just to offer support for the need of these lightings at Maybank and other facilities, and an upgrade and replacement for some facilities as well. And I know funding is going to be the number one issue. Lori's nodding her head, and we've had those discussions, but it really is understated the impact that recreation has on our community. And it's just one of those livability issues that whatever we can do to support folks like this who are out there advocating this, we need to get behind them as fast as possible.
Thank you. Mayor Tecklenburg.
So there were a couple locations, one on the Greenway and one over at Lenovar, that we wanted to add a street light, and there was real far distance to the nearest regular electrical service. So we installed some solar street lights, and they work really well. And just wondering, particularly since most of the playtime, I guess, would be before midnight. I mean, it's not like they need to shine all night long. Has anybody looked at some solar lights? Might be worth exploring because the installation is cheaper. You don't have to wire them.
Mayor, I'll check with Jason and make sure we do some research on that. I'm not aware of any solar lighting that would get you to the amount of foot candles you need to play tennis safely at night without lighting. But we can definitely check into that. Maybe that's something that's on the horizon. So we'll check that.
Yeah.
I do know that in my research, there was some facilities that have begun to do that. Just like Lori said, I'm not sure about the capacity of that and the lumens that they're going to be able to create, whether or not they would be enough. Through my research, one of the things that I did find is that going with the LEDs is more cost effective in the long run versus what we have been currently using, which are Lori, what are those called now?
Old fashioned.
I call them the old GE lights, but that's not a technical term, Daniel. So they're the old GE lights. And then we have shoebox lighting in some of the other places. But yeah, the LEDs are really, what works well now. I know the folks over at Mount Pleasant, the town of Mount Pleasant at Whipple Road, just installed all LED fixtures at their Whipple Road facility. And players are going over there and really happy with that. So that's what we're looking at for future lighting, would be getting LEDs.
One of the other good points about LEDs is you don't have much spillover into the neighborhood, that most of the lighting is concentrated just on the courts, and that many people that could be across the street versus the lights that we have now, they spill over into the neighborhood. These LEDs would not.
Okay, any other questions? Well, Daniel, I know you had mentioned that some matches had run late. Was that just length of matches? Was it weather, or do you remember when you say, and is that a normal thing that matches will run over during a tournament?
Well, what we were finding was that we have a lot of propensity for matches running later and causing us to wait an hour, up to an hour, hour and a half past start time, particularly for the 7:30 matches, because we have a 6 o'clock slot and a 7:30 slot. So any of the 6 o'clocks, whether it be for traffic or just match time, it just pushes it out. And that's just hard to pay, especially for all these other constituents that are driving 30 minutes to 45 minutes to Maybank to wait an hour and a half to play, then drive back home and have work in the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Lance, that was a great explanation. Councilmember Shealy, they play the women's matches in the fall and the spring at 6. And so if there's a women's match in front of the men's matches that should start at 7:30 that runs long, those fellas are just waiting on that court to open. And when you only have 8 lighted courts at Maybank and 2 of them are being used for instruction, those 6 courts are what you're waiting on to get on. So they're just pushing them back. Right now we're in mixed doubles and most of those matches are starting at, y'all play at 6:30? Is that right?
6,
6 or
it's still 6 o'clock and
7:30.
7:30.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a little better in mixed season. It plays a little faster, but yes, we've just got a lot of people playing on a lot of teams and a lot of age groups right now, which is a great problem to have. And they're just stacked up on those courts until they're open.
Okay, great. Any other questions before we move on, or you guys have anything else? Well, great presentation. Thank you. A lot of good information. Councilman Gregory.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out from Laurie, is that something that she's going to include in her 23 budget?
Well, it's been on the unfunded list for a while now, Councilmember Gregory. And it's a part of the master plan as well. It's noted as a need. So it's clearly already there, but we can make sure that it's re-highlighted when you all are going through the budgeting process to look at that and make some kind of priority for it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. And, as the mayor announced at City Council a couple of weeks ago, it is National Tennis Month, and we announced that as National Tennis Month in the city of Charleston as well. But thank you guys. Appreciate the update. So if there's nothing else there, thank you so much. If there's nothing else there, we'll move on to Lori with an aquatics update.
Thank you, Councilmember Shealy. Wanted to let everybody know, just so if there was any questions, I could try to get anything corrected, and everybody speaking from the same sheet of music. So if you've been paying attention, not only is the city having trouble finding employees and everyone else in the world, but it's especially hit our aquatics program, and not just ours, but aquatic programs all over the nation. There's pools in Arizona that are not even going to be open this summer. I actually got something from PRC last weekend that they're going to have to change their schedule for some of their water parks, which, as you know, is a revenue maker. So they're having to change that schedule, and that definitely will affect the revenue they bring in. Well, it's also affecting our swimming pools. We've closed the gap in the last week on our seasonal lifeguard hiring. Those folks are just going through the last parts of orientation. Most of those are high school or college students, so we won't get those young folks to us until after Memorial Day. But we will have all 4 pools open on Memorial Day weekend for family and rec swim. Which is good. We'll be able to meet all the DHEC requirements and safely be open, and we'll have pools open, and then we will open all 4 pools on a full schedule starting the week of June 6th. So as we bring in those seasonal lifeguards, we'll be able to have the pools open. We'll have them open 6 days a week in all 4 pools, and we've got times for water fitness and for rec swim and for lap swim. So all the groups that are out there will have opportunities to use our pools. And so I feel good about that. The negative we have is that we have not got enough water safety instructors on our staffing. So a lifeguard is the lowest level of certification. In order to be a water safety instructor and teach lessons, you have to have a certification above that lifeguard status. And so we have got a shortage of those folks. So we will not be teaching swim lessons this summer to the public. We did not hold registration. We did teach in the spring at MLK, and we'll be back teaching, we hope, in the fall. But the summer months, it's going to deplete us just to be open 6 days a week from early in the morning till evening for families to use for a safe swim and to bring children to, and for seniors to exercise in. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that scheduling with you all. In case you've heard from any of your constituents. I know there's a lot of folks that are ready to get back to W.L. Stevens. I'm anxious to get that pool back open as well. It's a beautiful pool, and now that it's been renovated, it's a great resource, but we have not had the staff to have it open. And rather than go to a daily schedule where we've had to say we're closed, we're open, we're closed, we're open, we've just closed that pool until, and we're only swimming out of MLK until Memorial Day. So I just wanted to share that. Our new schedule will be on our website for starting Memorial Day weekend. And please encourage folks to come out and use a pool. I would much rather they swim with us than at a apartment pool or a motel pool or some kind of water that doesn't have any lifeguards. We certainly want to avoid any drowning or tragedies this summer. And so using a pool with lifeguards that are certified and meeting DHEC standards are right where we want to be. And so we will be able to do that.
Councilman Saccharin.
Thank you, Chair. Can y'all hear me fine?
Yes, sir.
Lori, any idea when Stevens is going to be open? Is there a
Yes,
tentative date?
it'll open Memorial Day weekend. And then we'll be open that weekend and part of that week. And then starting on June the 6th, it will have a full schedule, just like Herbert Hazel and the James Allen Rec Center pool. So we'll have all 4 pools going full by June 6th.
And the second part of that, Lori, is if there's anything I can do with the school district or PRC, and I'm sure you've got great relationships with them regarding the lessons, let us know. You probably require very specific qualifications for those positions, right?
Right. Well, we started in January trying to hire for the summer. And I appreciate that offer. We've been to all the schools. I was over at James Allen Charter High School last week and saw our flyers hanging on the wall. We've been to Burke. We've tried to get the word out through the neighborhood associations. But you've got to be at least 16 years old. And you've got to have some level of swimming ability. And then we will actually do the training if you're able to meet the qualifications. And we're doing a $200 sign-on bonus for anybody that'll come work for us this summer. So, I mean, we have really been trying to offer everything we can do. I'm so thankful to our HR and to our finance folks who have given us the ability to do that, because this is the one position in recreation that I can't fudge the numbers. DHEC says if you've got 51 people swimming an MLK pool, you have to have 6 lifeguards on the deck. Well, 6 lifeguards times being open from 5:30 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. Yeah, there aren't enough. We just don't have enough. So, but yes, I will certainly do that. Anyone that knows anyone, it's not too late. If someone still wants to get certification or they've lifeguarded before, or they're looking for a summer job, please send them to our website. We are anxious to fill as many positions as we can. I don't want to turn away people this summer. I want our pools open, but I also know that it's my responsibility that they're safe.
Lori, how long does it take them to get trained if they have no experience?
So if you're a swimmer, Councilmember Shealy, that's a great question. If you're a swimmer and can pass the basic swimming portions of it, swimming, I think it's 300 meters and being able to lift a brick out of the deep end and pull it up. If you can physically do those things, then the training part, the online part and the training part on deck, it takes a weekend. So, I mean, it really can be done. If you don't have those swimming skills, it's going to be, very difficult. But if you can do those swimming things, so sometimes we get swimmers from PRC. A lot of those young folks want to go be beach guards. Well, a beach lifeguard has to be able to run a mile in 6 minutes.
Mhm.
And they get a lot of folks that are great swimmers, that are great lifeguards, but they can't beat that. They can't run a mile in under 6 minutes. So we do find some of them. So we've been talking to them to make sure anybody that they don't have that meets their open water regulations that they contact us. So we're kind of been talking to all the folks around us, all the pools, North Charleston, PRC, St. Andrews, anybody, Mount Pleasant. If anybody's got lifeguards and they're looking for a second job, we've got shifts available. So we're very open to that.
And are they paid during the training as well? Is that a paid time?
Absolutely. You're
Okay.
paid for your training. We pay for the training. It usually is,
Mhm.
back in the old days before COVID, you actually paid to take the lifeguard certification and then we hired you. But now we will pay you to do the certification, and we'll give you a sign-on bonus if you sign on with us. So there's a lot of incentive out there for someone that's looking for a summer job.
Okay, great. Councilman Saccharine.
Thank you, Chair. One last question, Lori. So if anyone's interested, should I connect them with you?
Absolutely. They can call the recreation office at 843-724-7327. Our website's got job listings on there. We can move them on through as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on aquatics? Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lori, do you see this? I know it's a national problem, and but again, so it's not just pay, because I think you said at the last meeting, pay is pretty good for this and paid training and all of that. But I guess just moving forward, again, this is just something we continuously see in the city of Charleston. But is this, do you think, going to be a continuous problem? Is it still just private sector is just paying more? Is that just the answer?
Gosh, Councilmember Parker, you think I'm smarter than I am. Oh, so,
I know you are.
Here's my theory. Take it for what it's worth. I think that 2 years of COVID and not doing any lifeguard certification classes has put all of us behind the 8 ball. I think that there are a lot of young people that used to work in jobs at summer camps, at swimming pools, at, you name it, the golf course, all of those kind of places. That when I was a young person growing up, that was a job you wanted. It was a coveted job. And now folks don't want those jobs, whether they're doing school things or traveling in the summer, or some of them are working their own schedules, doing Uber Eats or DoorDash, and you can work for 4 hours and it Venmos to your phone and you get paid immediately and nobody's telling you did your job wrong and you got to wear this shirt. And so I think there's just a lot of things that are out there. But one of the things that I think this city and our HR department is going to have to help us do is we're going to have to really go out and target a new group of public servants, folks that want to come in and work in the public sector, that understand how important it is to be here for providing services, to be firefighters and first responders, and to, all those kinds of things that we all do. There used to be a lot of folks kind of clamoring for that, and it's not the same now. So we've really just got to go do that. And the more we can make the jobs attractive and pay, I think that helps. You would think $14.50 an hour will be enough to turn somebody's head, but it's not always. I mean, we've had people leave us for 20 cents an hour more to go lifeguard in another community. So, it's just one of those things. Yes, if we can make the job a great experience, I think that helps. People that are happy will stay where they are. But I think there's just a lot of things going on. And, I hope it's going to improve. I hope we don't face this forever. We're certainly going to try to teach as many lifeguard classes as we can. It would be great to get kids back in school, swimming again through lessons. So Burke used to come and do swim lessons with us before COVID. They haven't done it since, but we used to always hire several of those high school juniors and seniors to come work at our pools. It was great. They lived in the community. They'd come work at the pools, but Burke's not been able to do that. Standards Clyde's not been able to come over to laps. If you don't have 5-year-olds swimming, they're not going to be swimmers when they're 15. So right. A lot of things.
I think I know I just want to touch on this. I mean, I'm more concerned. I mean, obviously we want these pools open, and it sounds like you've filled a lot of the gaps, but the swimming lessons, when I pulled up to the James Allen Rec Center, that was a really disappointing thing to see. I mean, Charleston is surrounded by water. This was something that I brought up in our Commission on Women's meeting, because a lot of the moms in the area, I mean, there just are not affordable swim lessons. We as a city are we provide that. So not having swim lessons I think it hurts, the young kids in this city. It's a safety thing, so to not be able to provide that is pretty disappointing.
Absolutely. And it was one of the hardest calls I had to make was saying, let's don't do registration, because I don't want families lined up for 4 hours in the middle of the night to get a spot, only for us to tell them in 3 weeks that we didn't have enough people come in. And I just not seen the number of hirings over the months of March and April to tell us that something was going to change going into May, council member. So I understand. I'm disappointed too. I pulled into James Allen Rec Center Saturday morning for the gymnastics recital. It kind of broke my heart to see the sign up too. And I knew the sign was there because I said, put it out. But but it is what it is. And so how we move past this, trying to get some swim lessons going back in the fall. The families that have opportunities and can make choices, there are private places they can go to get swimming lessons. It is the families that depend on us that economically and affordability and proximity depend on us to be there. They're the families that are going to miss out on those swim lessons. And so those are the ones that really break my heart. It absolutely does. So anyway, it's not that I'm happy about. I'm not resigned to it and just saying, hey, whatever. I mean, I'm very torn about it too, but at the end of the day, I need to make sure pools are open because some people don't have air conditioning. People don't have money to go away for the weekend or even go to the beach. So we need to be open. And that's the one mission I'm keeping out there.
And I know you've looked at high schools. And so can you tell us a little about the training for the swim instructors? And have we reached out to local churches and places like that that may understand the importance of public service?
We have gone every direction, and the mayor has really kind of given HR the green light to go. We've had job fairs at the city. We've gone to job fairs. We've reached out to neighborhoods. We've reached out to churches. I have personal friends that teach at the College of Charleston and at the Citadel. I've reached out to all of them. I've gone and taught the classes. I mean, I've tried to do it in the traditional way that we always find our employees. But in order to be a water safety instructor, you have to be a lifeguard, and then you have to have additional training for water safety instruction. So if we have a WSI, they can lifeguard and teach classes. If we have a lifeguard, the only thing they can do is be in the chair and lifeguard course. They can't teach certified classes. So we don't have enough hands on deck to teach classes the way we need to train people safely to teach classes. So I don't have that resource this summer.
So they have to pass the lifeguard training, and then what's the additional?
It's a water safety instructor training, and that's an additional training that requires more time and more ability. So you're not only just on the stand scanning for someone, you have to be able to teach the strokes. You have to be able to teach water safety. You have to be in the water teaching, and not everyone is a teacher. Being a teacher is a special skill. So a lot of folks that are good lifeguards don't make good instructors.
How long is the WSI training?
I don't know. It's longer than a weekend though. I can tell you that. We've not even had anyone come through as a certified lifeguard asking for that class. So there's a step one, and we're not even through step one all the way to get to step two. Mm-hmm. But we do have two instructors on our staff that can teach water safety instruction, but I don't have anyone in our system that currently is eligible to go to that training.
And again, to be eligible, you just have to be pass the lifeguard training.
You have to pass the lifeguard training, and then you have to go get the second part of that training. And it is a lot harder. There's a lot more rescue things that are involved in that. There's more medical and first aid and those kind of things. It's a much more difficult certification to have than just the lifeguarding.
Mm-hmm. And what's the pay scale on that?
That one is another $1 an hour, so it's up over 15.
Okay.
I know, not fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Gregory.
Yeah, quick question. Has the new Aquatic Center in North Charleston have an effect on our staffing, or they having the same or similar problems as we are in terms of staffing?
So that's a great question. And I can't answer their total day of how they set up. You can close sections of your pool and keep other sections open and reduce your number of lifeguards. So I don't know exactly how many hours a day they're running them. What I can tell you though, is they are paying more than we are. And it's not a lot more, but again, we've had a couple of people leave us just in the last month or two over an additional 20 cents an hour. So about the same time we got ourselves to almost that $15 part, North Charleston and Mount Pleasant jumped over it and did a little more. So they do pay a little more an hour. It's a brand new facility, and sometimes young folks like to work at brand new places and all those kind of things. So, I think there's a lot of things, but that's actually a great question, is what happens when a big place like that comes in? Does it create more demand, or do we have more people being trained? And I haven't seen the fruits of more people being trained out of this new place coming into the community.
Any other questions on aquatics?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I
thank you,
just,
Lori.
sorry, Councilman.
Caroline,
sorry,
go ahead. Yes,
Sheila,
sure.
sorry. Mr. Mayor, what do you think about, seeing the signs on our recreation buildings, once again, limiting another citywide service? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Maybe we can come back to that in a minute.
I guess he's gone.
Okay, yeah. Oh, there he is.
Hey there. I'm sorry, what's the question again?
Just wanted to see your thoughts on what I had brought up. I mean, just seeing that we're limiting another city service, we can't provide this service. What are, what are your
the
thoughts?
swim lessons?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think we've had a real challenge, as Laurie just went to great length to explain, and you got to make some choices to keep the pools open. I would suggest we do everything to partner with some other organizations that I know. Laurie, didn't we have a partnership? What was the name of that nonprofit? The Sharks, or the that did training and Title I schools? Could we not partner with someone like that to kind of pick up the pieces here? Y'all
Sure.
pardon.
So, Mayor, that was the LAPS program that you're talking about. Then they were working in Title I schools. Specifically, they were working with Meeting Street Academy and Sanders Clyde down here in our area. They have not been in the schools since COVID. So they have not been able to get back into the schools and do those things. I did reach out to Shannon O'Brien, who is no longer the executive director of LAPS, but I reached out trying to find any of her folks that were looking for summer employment. She gave me the list, and we did reach out to all those folks. So we have tried that route. We've tried our swim team. We've actually got a few members of our swim team that are over the 16 or over that have agreed to come work for us this summer as lifeguards. So that's helped. So we're trying those avenues as well.
What about our friends? I know they don't have a facility in the city of Charleston. I still hope they will one day. They up in Berkeley County, the YMCA. That's where I learned to swim when I was a kid. Wasn't with the city government, with the YMCA.
Sure. We can reach out to the YMCA, sir. I can definitely do that. The YMCA is a different kind of pool than a public pool. So their lifeguard requirements are a little different. Their swim lessons folks are the same though. I can reach out to see if they've got anyone that they would be willing to let us get some information in front of. I will certainly do that.
But we could almost, let them provide the program and just give them a certain space, a certain time. If anybody has any suggestions, the drawing board's open here. We're trying to figure this out. Thank you.
Well, do we still have the partnership with Burke High School, Laurie? And if so, is that yielding any potential?
Thank you. It has in the past, Councilmember Gregory, but we have not had Burke because of COVID. Burke and the schools have not been in the water at all. So, we have found the last couple of times we taught that, working real closely with our friends at Burke, we've hired some folks right there at Herbert Hazel. But we have not had that relationship because of COVID. So maybe as soon as that all goes away, we'll get more kids from school back in our pools.
Councilman Saccharine.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I wanted to provide with Councilwoman Parker's question. I think it's important for us to understand that this is not a Park and Rec issue. This is happening throughout the region and throughout the state. I mean, this is something I deal with every day, and it was bad. It still is bad. We have a very difficult time hiring after-school folks to work in the after-school programs. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all aware that this is an economy shift. Like, our economy has changed drastically over the past year. I don't see light at the end of the tunnel, Lori. I can tell you from my team right now, in terms of hiring for summer camps, we're having a very difficult time hiring for summer camps. And Councilwoman Parker, we've had to make tough decisions to limit the number of camps because we can't find the right staff, the number of staff in previous years. So I think I say all this to say that, I think to Lori's point, we need a new approach on what we call in the school district temporary hourly employees and how to recruit them. So I think this is a discussion for the HR subcommittee. I think you need a separate strategy on how to recruit these folks. And then B, when budget time comes around, folks, I think we need to have an honest discussion about making sure that we're paying competitive wages, because at the end of the day, Councilman Parker is absolutely right. Our constituents don't know when they see a close sign, they just get mad. Why is this not being offered? And they don't understand all the nuance of these conversations. So when it comes down for budget time, I would encourage all of us to dig down and ask those questions for our part-time temporary employees, if we're giving them the boost that we need so we can be competitive with Chick-fil-A and Walmart and Target. Because I can tell you right now, $14 an hour ain't cutting the mustard when they can go work for Uber Eats and not have to have Lori bugging them every day. So thank you.
Lori, you mentioned reaching out to our local swim team. I mean, would it be possible to reach out to I think it's the CCAA, the Coastal Carolina Aquatics Association, and reach out to other swim teams?
Sure. So that's the summer swim league. So all those teams are swimming summer league or practicing for it right now. Most of those are going to be younger kids that only swim in the summer. And Coach Michael and his staff have done a really good job with our SMART team with the older group that we could do that. But we can certainly keep pushing the message out. I mean, if I don't hire people till later in June and we can do something at the end of the summer, I mean, I'm happy to pivot that late as well. But I just knew that we were not in position to have families looking for us for that program beginning in June like they wanted it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on aquatics?
No, again, and I don't mean to keep it going. I
please.
think it's really important that, this is once again, it sort of seems like a city service that, it's the elephant in the room. We all know the economy's bad and everything's changing in the job market, but this is why we have to keep having the discussion and make sure that it's, put as a priority, because like Councilmember Saccharin said, I mean, those are just the calls that we get all the time. Our taxes are the same, but our services are going down. Then we have to have these tough conversations as council members, because this is our job, so sorry, but yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's one of the reasons, Councilmember Parker, that I wanted to share this update. I asked Councilmember Shugley to put it on the agenda, not because I wanted to have this conversation or I wanted to drag you all through it. I just thought it was important that you understood it all and could ask me questions, because I have wrestled with this and tossed and turned at night trying to figure out some other way. I've reached out to other rec directors in our area and across the state and other places. And what are y'all doing? How are you doing it? There's been some conversations about the privatization of swim lessons. But again, I think that's going to get back to the economy. If we privatize swim lessons and it costs more money to do it, it's just going to cost the community more to take those lessons. And then we're still leaving behind those people that need us the most and families that are having to make choices. So I don't know the answer. I wish I was smarter, but I'm not thinking that we should wave a white flag and quit. I'm going to keep charging along with it. Okay.
Very good. All right. Well, if there's nothing else on aquatics, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is an update on the Parks and Rec master plan. I think Jason is, there he is. Okay, popped on now. So Jason's here, and of course Lori's here, and if we can get those updates.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to jump in here, and Lori can pitch in if she feels like I've missed anything. But so Chairman Shealy asked us to provide an update on the Parks and Rec master plan. So what I wanted to do was give you just a real brief recap on the plan itself. The plan here was adopted by City Council last year. It's a very long plan, lots of good information in it. So a couple points I wanted to make. We conducted in-person engagement in 19 different locations around the city. We met with stakeholder groups like the tennis group that you heard earlier. We conducted statistically valid surveys with over 600 household responses. We had over 2,400 responses through web surveys, and also did a mind mixer engagement platform online. so that we got really good feedback from the communities in a very difficult time as we were conducting this during COVID. So the team also prepared a social needs and conditions index, which is mapping based on census tract of 10 socioeconomic and demographic neighborhood characteristics, which highlighted areas of the city that would benefit from public services and programs. So that includes a long list of items, but includes parks. So that social needs and conditioning index identified areas in the city that we should focus our work on. So we also prepared on-site inventories and conditions assessments of all of our parks and rec facilities, analyzed population projections with our planning department, and then mapped out needs over the next 10 years based on NRPA standards, national standards based on population. So that's kind of the master plan in less than 5 minutes, which if you haven't looked at it yet, it's a very robust document. So the plan took all of that information and mapped out needs of the city over the next 10 years based on those population projections, as well as what our facilities need from a deferred maintenance point of view. So we've got all of that information, and what we're planning on doing now, and this is already part of the contract with our consultant team, is the implementation phase. So we have that as part of the project. So what we're going to do is we're going to re-engage the consultant team and work with them to come up with a number of different recommendations on how we can start the implementation phase of the master plan and how much it would cost. And then we can work with the mayor and Amy and city council to figure out a way to fund all of that work. It will be a series of options. It'll be the big wish list, and then it'll probably be something that we think that we can get accomplished in the next 5, 7 to 10 years. Although the list is rather long and comprehensive, there's only so much work we can actually get done. So that's the big picture of where we are. Laurie and I are going to re-engage with Tom O'Rourke, and then in the next month or two, we'll bring back to you all a list of projects and determine a way forward.
Councilman Saffron?
Thank you, Chair. I guess Jason or the mayor, is there any discussion on potentially floating the referendum, bond referendum at some point in the future?
We've discussed that, council member. This council can actually approve a bond without having to wait for a referendum.
Kind of difficult to hear you, Mayor.
Yeah, it's real hard to hear.
I don't know what else to do. I got my headphones on.
That's better.
Is that better?
A little bit. Mm-hmm.
If I walk into the room that has the little device, it seems to work better. Anyway, the master plan was kind of envisioned that it would run out through 2030. The timing of it, when it came to us, when was that, Jason? Summer a year ago?
Yeah, it was September of last year.
Was right before the election, and the thought was we had a referendum to ask our citizens' approval to take on some additional bond indebtedness, which means they'd have to approve a couple of mills in order to pay it back. We thought we had timing to do that, but council did not approve it at that time. So we can go back. It'll be, a year from November before we have a municipal election. I had asked Julia to ask a question as to whether we could put a municipal referendum on the general election when it's not our year, but I think that's way too complicated. So that's one option, but that's a whole nother year plus from now. I mean, the other option, if it's the will of council to commit the millage and do the bond, we can vote on that.
We could vote on, sorry, Mayor. So we could potentially take action and vote on that now with the understanding that we would initiate that bond, put it on the ballot in 2 years from now. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
I'm saying you don't even have to put it on. Oh, I'm sorry. You don't even have to put it on the ballot. I mean, it's a good thing to do to get community support, but if y'all believe your constituents really would like to see that and see these improvements and see these park facilities added, you know, we can take that action. We don't have to have a referendum.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Parker.
What would be the deadline, Mr. Mayor? Thank you, Chair. What would be the deadline, Mr. Mayor, for the referendum? When would that have to be finished by this year to get it on for next year?
It wouldn't be this year. It would be to get on the referendum next year. I'd have to get legal to verify for me, but it's something like summer, if I remember correct, like August before the November. Does that sound right,
Wouldn't have
Julia?
to work on it this summer. It would have to be done by next August.
Correct. The general deadline is 90 days prior to the ballot.
Oh, okay. I think we had a
to get it
previous
in.
discussion and you had said it was something like a year, but that's not the case. It's 90 days out from the election.
Yes, the county election commission would like to have the language for the referendum 90 days out. So
Okay.
that's the first deadline for us.
Okay, but were you telling me before city council wise? I mean, is there another something you had mentioned something like a year, like we have to get things like that ahead, you know, maybe out to the public, but no, just 90 days is the rule.
For the county, yes, for referendum questions, they require to get the language 90 days out.
To have it on the ballot in November 23.
Correct.
It's best until the last minute, though.
Councilmember Gregory.
In order for us to do a referendum or anything, I think we need to look at the totality of circumstances to determine where our priorities are. And it might be rec, but there are a number of others. But I'm just saying that you have to look at the totality of circumstances, to me, before we make any determination with regard to a referendum or any budgetary matter, actually.
Councilmember Sacker.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councilman Gregory, so basically you're saying, you know, we would have to weigh the options of what a referendum on some of these rec projects versus a referendum on affordable housing.
It could be.
Exactly. I got you. You're right. Absolutely right. I just wanted to know what the timeline was in terms of trying to get something on the ballot, or if we even needed to. It sounds like we don't even need to do that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Well, we'll look forward to having Tom speak with us soon, I guess, at an upcoming meeting and chat with us a little more on some priorities and a list, I guess. Jason is the next step. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, so we would come back to the rec committee, or, you know, council could do a full workshop and come up with a list of projects based on the recommendations of the master plan. That, you know, the biggest thing is, what can we get done in 5, 7, or 10 years? You know, our projects take, you know, just if you look at fire stations, it takes a while to get a fire station funded and land purchased and the project built. So that's just the latest. So yeah, we would come back and work with you all to figure out what the list is, what the amount is, and figure out how to fund it.
Okay.
Hey, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we talk somewhere around 80 or 100 million at least?
So the master plan identified about 50 million in deferred maintenance and about $200 million in needs over 10 years. And we did talk about a list of recommendations that kind of crossed the entire city, and that was a little bit over $100 million. But we know that we don't have the ability to get that much work done. So we'd have to kind of figure out, what can we get done based on how many people we have, looking at the future of our public safety facilities, the work we've prioritized over there, and figure out how to spread the wealth.
Thank you for that answer.
Any other questions or comments on master plan? Well, I'll move forward to our enterprise manager position, which was part of the master plan, and hopefully we can get an update on that.
Sure. So, a couple of the things that we were going ahead and trying to do, the low hanging fruit, as you will, from the master plan. One of them was to go ahead and establish that enterprise manager position. HR worked with me, and we were able to set up a job description and a pay classification. And we've gone through that process over the last couple of months. I narrowed it down to 3 candidates, all of which have very different experiences than the folks that we usually hire in Parks and Recreation. We have offered the position, Councilmember Shealy, and I'm awaiting an answer. So if the person that was my first candidate, and Tom O'Rourke did sit in on those interviews with me, but if that person does accept the position, they are not local. So I think there'd be a little bit of a lag time in getting them on sometime in the summer. But we have moved in that direction. We have offered the position. I was hoping I'd have an update for you more than that today, but I'm still awaiting that decision.
All right. Well, thank you for all your work on that. That's good news that we've moved that far. So thank you very much.
I'm hoping that when the candidate realizes how expensive it is to live here, he's going to tell me he's got a lot of money on the side and he can afford it. So.
All right. Any other questions on that? All right. Well, very good. Then some updates on some of our parks, if Jason will take that. I appreciate it.
Sure. So Richardson Park over on Bender Street, the work is progressing. Had some challenges with every other construction project in the region recently. The work is looking great. Exterior building work progresses. The decking is all about 85% complete. Interior, the wood ceilings complete. Plumbing is nearing completion and getting ready for some pre-install for the drywall. So should be covering up the interior walls here pretty quickly. Site work is well underway. Landscape submittals have been received. Parking lot work is about 90% complete. Curbing, sidewalks, and other hardscape areas about 95% complete. And the playground has been installed. Believe it or not, the contractor was given 42 rain days. Of course, that hadn't happened in the past couple months.
Right.
And so there's a new substantial completion, and we don't think they're going to make it. They're being a little more optimistic than our design team is. So we're looking probably July, beginning of August to get that park opened up.
Yeah, I was over there at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I just was expecting it to be further along than it is. I was disappointed, to be honest with you, with what I saw. But anyway, Councilman Gregory.
Yeah, I was over there also, and I think it is an unbelievable park.
It is.
Just in terms of design, the views and the vistas. I just think it's probably one of our best parks once it's completed. Jason, you guys that are, in capital projects, you're to be applauded. I just think that that's a phenomenal park, and everybody on recreation at some point really needs to go over there and take a look at it. They're doing a great job.
Councilman Saccharin, I believe this is in your district. So.
Yes, thanks, Jason. I think I share it. I think a little bit. I know Councilman Waring and is over there as well. But anyways, Jason, thanks for the work on the project. I know we went over there early on, and if you could just can you just share with the rest of council? Remember there was a fraternity there that we were going to name and have a plaque up. How can you just give us an update on the progress of that?
Yeah, so there's I think it's the Alpha Psi Omega. Is that correct? There's a group.
Q Psi Phi, I think it is. It's the
Yeah,
Q.
so there's a group of members of that fraternity that would like to put up a statue of Dr. Just. Dr. Just grew up in the neighborhood, and if you don't know his story, it's a pretty fantastic story. And the guy, he's just an incredible guy. So I would encourage you to look up Dr. Just if you haven't. And we're also working with the neighborhood association on some historic interpretation of important people from the neighborhood. And again, it's amazing the number of folks that came from this area and the accomplishments that they have made historically. So they have put together lots of historical information. They've brought it to the History Commission. It was not part of our original project budget. So once we get to the end of the project, we'll work with them and figure out how we can get some of this interpretation of the neighborhood completed and then printed so we can display that in the park or in the building.
Very good. I agree with Councilman Gregory, and it's going to be just gorgeous. I mean, looking out, seeing the Citadel and downtown across the river, and then looking the other direction, seeing Charlestown Landing. I mean, it just couldn't be a better spot. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be awesome. So, let me ask you now: when we have this building complete, will we be renting that out to groups or anything like that? Is it what exactly is the plan as far as the building itself, or is it just there as part of the recreation facility?
Laura, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I knew you were going to get tired of talking on that question. So some of this has already been kind of vetted out at the staff level between Jason and I as to what that building's going to look like and how it's going to be. At this point, we envision it being a event space where someone would reserve it for some kind of event, whether it be a birthday party or, anniversary or something like that. Obviously you could have meetings there. It could be a very nice venue for that. But there's no staffing that have been budgeted with this facility. So if we did try to do anything to the building to make it more useful, we'd have to add staff. I don't have existing staff that can do that. We haven't added staff dollars to the cleanup or anything like that. So we'd have to look at it that way, but I think the envisionment was it was somewhere that the community could rent and use for special event space to work with the parking and all those kind of things.
Great. Okay, thank you. Any other questions on Carr Richardson before we move forward? Okay, go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
Councilmember
Okay,
Shealy,
so-
I'm going to jump off. Sorry, Jason, jump off really quick. I got to go downstairs and run the citizen committee. So
Okay.
I'm going to run that meeting.
Yeah,
if
thank
need
you for your work
anything,
on it.
Jason can either answer it or solve it for me. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
So Fort Pemberton update. Fort Pemberton, as most of you know, is a Greenbelt purchase. It's over in Riverland Terrace. We held a community meeting, drop-in style, on March 21st. We advertised it via US mail and social media and the neighborhood association. We had over 100 people attend, which was really nice. We set up 4 stations throughout the 6.5 acres with a staff person at each station. We had a welcome station. We did a Fort History station. We had a station set up in the lawn area and then one down at the water's edge on one of the existing docks. The feedback that we received was really commensurate with the conceptual plan that we had prepared and submitted with the Greenbelt application. Really, it's a passive park with maybe a few small parking areas, historic interpretation, picnic shelters, open field, and most importantly, that waterfront access. All of that engagement, everybody was really positive about the project, and it all supported that LWCF grant that City Council approved a couple months ago. So we hope to hear back from LWCF in July, August to hear how we ranked with that application. Hopefully we'll get the grant, which would, it was a $260,000 grant, 50% match by the Greenbelt funding that we have available already for minor improvements that are allowed by the Greenbelt. So hopefully in July or August, we'll hear back positively from LWCF, and we'll bring you back a grant acceptance award. Fingers crossed. So that's kind of the big picture on Pemberton. Any questions on that one? All right, we'll move right along here. Stony Field. Stony Field, the work is ongoing. Ticket booth windows, bathroom, and flooring resurfacing has been procured, and that work is ongoing over the next couple of weeks. So there'll be additional contractors on site. The new plumbing service has been completed and that was conducted by Charleston County School District. It wasn't part of our current MOU, but they knew we had an issue and they had an easy or affordable way to fix it. So they jumped in and had their contractors fix the new water service. The parking lot and entry plaza are scheduled for completion at the end of this quarter. So we're looking forward to getting that all buttoned up. We're still working on a small hiccup with the Army Corps of Engineers and the landfill cap from the former landfill, which is, everybody knows that used to be marsh. There's a 1971 agreement that said we had to maintain the landfill cap. We didn't know about the 1971 agreement until the Army Corps looked out their window and wondered what work we were doing there after we had already completed a bunch of work out there with all the field work. So anyway, they have committed to helping us amend that permit, and hopefully it doesn't hold us up anymore. So they've been good partners so far.
Good. Oh, that's good news. Any questions on Stony Field? Glad to see that moving along. That's great. All right. Any additional business? Any additional questions on parks or recreation? Councilmember Parker.
Yeah, this is Jason Kronsberg. I know I had emailed you regarding some shade. I didn't know whether to bring this up in Aquatics or not, but just hope to touch base with you again at some point. Again, this is something that, we've talked about private sector. I mean, we have a lot of really engaged community members that want to try to help see this through. So I just, if you can just give me the direction, to try and take that. I know Lori's not on anymore, but
so we sent that little sketch that you sent over to two of our playground equipment vendors, and they do shade structures. So hopefully we'll get some cost estimates back pretty quickly, and I can share them back with you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to send another one on Stephen Washington Park, because that's one that a lot of constituents have really been reaching out, and we would love to see improvements over there. I know that budget is tight, but I think we have some really engaged community members, and we could really get some things done, but I need a little help, a little direction.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Anything else for the good of this committee? Well, thank you, Jason. Thank you very much. I know you got called to jury duty. You had a long day and you still got in here and helped us out. And there was a time when Lori and Jason were both going to jury duty and we weren't sure we were going to be able to have this meeting. So I appreciate everybody making that happen. I'm glad to see that Mayor Tecklenburg could join us as well. And if there's nothing else, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.